Well, everybody, I'm Cantonese Cat. Hey, everybody, Cantonese Cat here. We're going to go for real quick. Of all the Bitcoin stocks, but first of all, I want to go through Bitcoin here real quick. It still looks pretty strong. It looks like for the wave trend oscillator, we're going to have a bullish cross that's coming pretty soon. And on X, I was drawing this trend line over here, which actually seemed to be working out pretty well. I think we bounced right off of the trend line. Matter of fact, this trend line actually is more of like a channel when it comes to the wave trend oscillator. We hit the top and now we're hitting the bottom, and right now it looks like it wants to have a little bit of a bullish cross over here. It looks like it wants to curl up, so there's a strong reason to think that Bitcoin is probably going to end up going higher, especially if it is able to close the week above the Tenkan line, the blue line over here, which is going to be around $62,748. That's going to be a very important level. We'd like to see that closing about that this week. But so far it's looking pretty decent in terms of what it's doing on the weekly chart. On the monthly chart, you can see that very clearly that has bounced off a very important level, which is the Tenkan level over there. Now, on the wave trend oscillator, it looks like it wants to roll over, but it has done that many times before during mid-cycle. And I don't think it's anything really to worry about. You know, if you worry about that, I wouldn't necessarily be worried, because you have some bearish crosses over here time and time again. And wherever you have these bearish crosses, it actually ends up just keep going higher from there on out. So I'm not necessarily worried about this bearish cross over here. I do think that it's important that it found some pretty important support up here at the Tenkan, as well as being way above the cloud. It simply just got way far away from the Tenkan, simply just correcting through time and price, and it did the thing that it had to do, and it looks like it wants to go higher. So that's Bitcoin. Let's go for some of the Bitcoin related stocks here. With MSTR, we turn off a lot of these crap right here. On the monthly, basically did the same thing. Like, this is the same exact chart. It found support here right at the Tenkan, way above cloud. But if you look at the weekly, it has also found support from both the Tenkan and the Kijun, both the blue line and the red line. It got above of that. So this is generally a pretty, bullish sign that we're seeing. You have a little bit of a bullish crossover here too. So I wonder whether or not we're getting ready for the next leg up, potentially. I'm going to turn off the Ichimoku cloud here. I'm going to turn on the blue market support band and the Bollinger Band. At the same time, you can see that we have reclaimed the blue market support band, and it's pointing up. Most likely going to push price up higher. You do have a Bollinger Band squeeze over here too, together with a bullish cross. Good things probably going to come soon. You asked me about price targets. I'll tell you about price targets. The price targets are currently a little bit silly to think about, because you're still underneath a lot of resistance. But I do think most likely it could hit the top of the arc over here around like 1800s. And if it breaks through, it can hit around 2045, somewhere around there. Or you could potentially back test down here. You could even go down and close the gap over here. I mean, this is Bitcoin. Anything can happen. But even if it goes back down and close the gap, it would just be kind of oscillating, sideways. But there's not necessarily going to be a reason for it to go down, because right now we're back inside the arc, and not all gaps have to close. So there's a consideration where it can hit the top of the arc over here, get rejected, or it can just push through the top of the arc over here, get rejected, bounce from the arc, and then go higher, maybe test the angle over there. Ultimately, I think it's going to surpass this angle. Ultimately, I think for the next 12 to 18 months, anywhere around here, it could hit the arcs up here around 4,000 or 5,000, or maybe even hit like maybe 6,700, somewhere around there. But obviously, none of these things are guaranteed. We're still underneath a lot of resistance over here, and it still needs to prove itself. But so far, the trend's looking a lot better. And on top of that, you also just kind of look at the MSTR over Bitcoin chart. And I'm just going to basically kind of show some comparison between the two, between the MSTR chart itself over the MSTR/BTC chart. You can see that over here on the last cycle, whenever we got to February, that was really like the late cycle. This is February 2021, that was late cycle, because after that, MSTR really has severely underperformed Bitcoin. It really has not performed as in par with Bitcoin at all. Right now, it's a little bit of a different story. The MSTR for Bitcoin chart is looking to perform mostly higher lows and higher highs, and right now it just looks like it wants to just keep breaking higher, even stronger than the MSTR chart itself. If you chart it over Bitcoin, it looks even stronger than that. So there's something to be said about maybe MSTR continue to outperform Bitcoin, which doesn't really sound like late cycle behavior at all. Next chart is going to be Coinbase. And if you look at a weekly chart of Coinbase, very similar to MicroStrategy, you reclaimed the Tenkan, you reclaimed the Kijun, and right now price looks like it wants to go up higher rather than going lower. Look at the monthly chart, it's still a little bit above the Tenkan. I would really like the Tenkan to kind of catch up a little bit more, but it doesn't necessarily have to do that. It looks like it might be ready to run together with the cryptocurrency market. And it's important that it's closing above these Tenkan and Kijun by the end of the week. If you also look at the Bollinger Support Band and the Bollinger Band, you also see that it's squeezing. Looks like a big move is coming. It's currently reclaimed the Bollinger Support Band, so most likely it's going to keep going up higher. That's kind of what I'm seeing here. If you are looking at the Gann chart that I have drawn, it looks like a little bit like a sky's the limit kind of situation. It looks like it wants to hit like 400. That's what it looks like to me. But you still have some resistance here to kind of push through, you know, especially around 277. This is a pretty important level because we spent a long time here around 2021 to like, you know, yeah, around like pretty much like the entire year 2021 after his IPO'd. We spent a lot of time here, so it might take a little bit longer to kind of bring about this Fibonacci level around 277, 280. We got rejected here from before, right? So that's going to be very important to break through. Once we break through that level, it's going to be up here, maybe around like 400. It's kind of what I'm thinking. If you're wondering whether or not we're early cycle or late cycle, pull out the Ichimoku cloud. First of all, it's also having a little bit of a bullish crossover here on the wave trend oscillator, which is promising. And if you also look at the Coinbase over BTC chart, it also looks relatively bullish. It looks like it's above the cloud. It looks like we've just been consolidating above the cloud here. It looks like we want to just keep running up, and we might end up having Coinbase potentially outperforming Bitcoin moving forward. What about Robinhood? Not technically a Bitcoin chart, but it does have a lot of cryptocurrency exposure. It's one of the most bullish fintech stocks there is. And right now it's just way above the Tenkan. I always worry about this. Whenever price gets way above the Tenkan, I worry that it might have to go sideways and come back crash down. But it doesn't look like it want to do that at all. It looks like it's just been riding the weekly Tenkan all the way up, even though you initially have a little bit of a bearish divergence over here. But it's actually worked out through time already. It's kind of incredible. It didn't drop down like I thought it would to, like even 20 or 20 and a half. You know, like it just kind of went to like 21 and found support, and that's it. This is a very, very strong chart. It's quite incredible, actually. So if you're looking at the a little bit of a bullish cross impending right there, right on the wave trend oscillator, and if I turn off the Ichimoku, if I just turn on Bollinger Support Band and the Bollinger Band, it doesn't quite have that squeezy feel to it like MicroStrategy or Coinbase, but it does look like it does have a little bit of a squeeze. It does look like it wants to push up higher over time, and it's just riding the upper Bollinger Band. Looks like it wants to expand it a little bit more, and looks like it wants to run up. And that's Robinhood. Is Robinhood doing pretty well relative to Bitcoin? You betcha. Yeah, it's doing very well against Bitcoin. You do have a little bit of a bearish cross over here. Maybe Bitcoin might in the short term outperform Robinhood, but overall Robinhood has been outperforming Bitcoin for pretty much for like half a year now. So this is Robinhood. I still think that it's going to keep going up higher. I just don't know whether or not it's necessarily going to catch up with Bitcoin because it's already outperformed Bitcoin a lot and is a little bit exhausted compared to Bitcoin. Now that's Robinhood. You're asking me about targets. I actually don't have the Gann here. Oh, actually I have the Gann over here. That's why. If you're asking me about targets, are we hitting some potential resistance soon? The answer is yes. We are so far able to get above the 0.5 Fibonacci level, but we're hitting some of these arcs up here pretty soon. So I still think that around mid-20s or high 20s, probably going to be some pretty strong resistance level. And I think 32.5 is going to be a pretty important resistance level here too, because that's the golden ratio. But I do think that over time is probably going to keep going up and keep going up. Where does the cycle end? I mean, the cycle ends whenever these resistance breaks one at a time and until it gets exhausted. Right now is working out its bearish divergence really, really well. It looks like it wants to break above, and it looks like it just doesn't really care about the bearish divergence anymore. It already worked out for time, so it could keep going up higher. I think if it pushes through the arc over here, the next arc is going to be right around here. So we're going to end up closing the cycle around like 50, or if it keeps going, maybe 70, 80, 85. All these targets are possible, but it looks like a pretty strong chart right now. Clean Spark. I'm going to Clean Spark in terms of the monthly. I'm going to close the again here. We do have a little bit of bearish cross, but it looks like it wants to curl back over. It looks like it is potentially going to end up correcting And going back to the bull trend here, you look at the Ichimoku cloud, we've been spending 6 months trying to push back inside the cloud, and so far it looks like we might be doing that. So far as only mid-month, we'll see whether or not we end up closing inside the cloud here. If we are, we might still come back and back test a little bit before going up higher, or we might just end up gravitating towards the top part of the cloud over here after that. And it's not a bad looking chart at all. If you look at the weekly chart, we have reclaimed so far. Again, it's only Tuesday, but so we reclaimed the Tenkan and the Kijun. Maybe it's just a wick. Maybe we're still range bound. Maybe it just goes back down from here. But I don't know if that's the case at all. You have a very nice bullish cross over here on the wave trend oscillator. So far, this looks like a pretty decent chart here. You reclaim the bull market support band, and the Bollinger Band is squeezing, telling you like a bigger move is going to come. Gee, I wonder which way it's going to be. This is CleanSpark. It's been forming higher highs and higher lows, and it consolidated for about 6 months. We'll see which way it's going to go. Is CleanSpark outperforming Bitcoin? The answer is, for the last year and a half or so, the answer is yes, it has. It has outperformed Bitcoin, forming higher highs and higher lows on this CleanSpark over Bitcoin chart. And so far, the CleanSpark over Bitcoin chart is also above the Tenkan and the Kijun, and the wave trend oscillator is also pointing up. So all of these things are going pretty well for it. Now, you asked me about the target for CleanSpark. I'm going to say we got to convincingly close this week above the Tenkan and above the 0.382, which has been kind of stuck here for quite some time. And then we also like to reclaim 22. I think 22 is going to be a pretty strong resistance because it's going to be at the arc as well as at the Fibonacci level. And, we'll see if we can close above that. Above that, you're really talking about maybe 27, 28 would be the next important level. After that, I really do see price gravitate up towards like the 80s to 100, 110, or maybe even close the cycle up around like 150. All of those are possible. But right now we're at resistance, so hey, next thing you know, we could plummet down, right? So just be a little bit more cautious at resistance. I wouldn't do anything crazy. But I do think that is turning around the corner. I do think that this is probably going to be a beginning of the next leg up. And again, CleanSpark over Bitcoin has been relatively outperforming. So I think that it might set up for some ongoing outperformance moving forward too. Mara on the wall. Who's the fairest cat of them all? Mara. Let's look at the monthly chart. The monthly chart is telling us that, hey, we might be breaking above a very important range over here. Remember I was saying price kind of stuck over here between the Tenkan and the Kijun? Well, price might still be stuck in a range because it might still be underneath the Ichimoku cloud. Super Ichi cloud over here. But it looks like it might be entering the Super Ichi cloud. I do worry that it might end up getting rejected over here. We'll see, but at least it's breaking above the Kijun. And on the monthly chart, you have the bullish cross. This bullish cross is nothing to sneeze at, because whenever you have a bullish cross, it could precipitate a very powerful move moving up, forward. So we'll see whether or not this plays out, but so far Mara is looking very, very bullish, even on the monthly chart. On the weekly chart, oh man, it's already breaking out. It's already breaking above the Super Ichi cloud. Looked like it just had a very, very nice back test on the Super Ichi cloud after it convincingly broke above of it, right? And right now it looks like it wants to go higher. It had a bullish cross over here on the Super Ichi. What about the Ichimoku? Well, Ichimoku is also above the cloud. It bounced from the cloud. Looks like it wants to go higher too. And the wave trend oscillator is supporting that. If you're looking at the GAN and the Fibonacci, I think next level is going to be around like 34, 33.8, somewhere around there, which is confluent with this horizontal line over here on the GAN and the 0.382 Fibonacci level. Break above that, 52.76 is going to be an important level. Even 40 is going to be an important level. The reason why I say that is because the monthly Ichimoku cloud is right up there. That's where the monthly Ichimoku cloud is going to be waiting at around like 43. And 0.618 is an important level too, based on the fact that it's a golden ratio. After you're breaking about the 40s and 50s, if you end up doing that, you're really talking about potentially price going up a lot higher to these arcs up here. And you can talk about a potential triple digit Mara right around here. Do I think price is going to gravitate to like 330s? I doubt it. Probably not this cycle. I'm not that bullish. But hey, I'm just telling you, like right now we have some resistance over here to break. There's some pretty important resistance at around 33.8, around 43.3, around 52.7. These are very important resistance. After that, the skies could be limit, but we have to break above these resistance. I don't want to really be that bullish right now because we're at underneath a lot of resistance and we need to break above. But you do have a lot of bullishness coming forward. Is Mara outperforming Bitcoin? Let's look at the Mara over Bitcoin chart. The answer is it's just been oscillating and there's not really a trend, but it does look like Mara wants to gravitate towards back to the cloud over here. So because of that, I do think that Mara in the short term over the next few months most likely would end up outperforming Bitcoin here. And that's not a bad thing. Looking at Bitfarms is one of those charts that has been looking very bullish. Just like Mara, it broke above the Tenkan, and it looks like it wants to gravitate towards the cloud, which is around $5. You had a bullish cross over here on the wave trend. Looking at the weekly, also have price breaking outside on top of the cloud, out of the Tenkan and Kijun. You also have a little bit of a bullish cross over here. It looks like it's running up. Looks like Bitfarms wants to go higher. Going to turn this off. Going to look at the Bollinger Support Band has reclaimed that. Bollinger Band is a little bit tight, but not too squeezy. But it does look like it wants to move up higher. Had a little bit of a squeeze. Looks like it wants to expand now. So we'll see what happens. If you want to talk about targets, I can talk about targets with you. Target's going to be after it breaks above the upper Bollinger Band. You're really talking about last time we got rejected here in the 0.382 around 3.8 to $4. And we have to break above that zone, and then next thing you know, it's going to be confluent around $6 to $7 to $8 somewhere up here. It's going to be a pretty important resistance zone. After that, $15 is going to be important. 1.618 is generally a pretty important resistance level. After that, you're talking about maybe like up here around like the low 20s. That could be where the stock ends. If it doesn't end, it could go up to the 70s. I doubt it. But we'll see how far it takes. But we're still underneath resistance, so I wouldn't get too bullish right now. Is Bitfarm outperforming Bitcoin? It's just like Mara. It's just oscillating. In the short term, I can see Bitfarm outperforming Bitcoin on the short term, and I can see it gravitate towards these levels up here. So in the short term, I think Bitfarm might end up doing pretty decent. And also you had a bullish crossover here for Bitfarm over BTC chart. CIFR. CIFR is one of my favorites for a long time, and I think you know why I finally felt very bullish about it for a very long time, for months, because I was anticipating a breakout like this. And where is price going to go after it breaks out? I think it's probably going to go to around like 7.8 to $8 zone. That's probably going to be where price is going to end up gravitating to. You have a very nice bullish cross, push above the Tenkan here on the monthly. On the weekly, it's above everything. And you also have a very nice bull trend here on the weekly too, on the wave trend oscillator. So things are looking pretty decent for CIFR. We are probably going to end up hitting resistance whenever price gets to around 7.8 to $8. That's probably where I think price can end up gravitating to. We'll see how it reacts there. Around $10, around 9.6 to $10 is going to be also a very important level, because that's the price with IPO at, and naturally it's going to be a little bit of a psychological resistance right there. Above that, you're talking about hitting some of these prices up here anywhere from like 13 to around 18 or so. That's going to be an important resistance zone, and we might spend a long time there trying to break above. But if you break above that, you're really talking about maybe like 50s, 64, somewhere around here, and we could end the cycle right around there, which is something crazy to think about. But one resistance level at a time. Next one that we have to fight over is going to be 7.8. The one after that's going to be around 9.7 to 10. That's CIFR. Now, is CIFR outperforming Bitcoin? Yeah, it is outperforming Bitcoin. It's outperforming Bitcoin over the last few months. It looks like the trend wants to continue. It looks like it's just forming a cup. It looks like the wave trend oscillator is pointing up. It looks like it wants to continue to outperform over Bitcoin. IREN. IREN's a little bit, on the higher time frame is absolutely bullish. Had a bullish cross, push above. But currently, for the month of July, you do have a little bit of a tweezer top here. And it looks a little bit toppy, unfortunately. Look at the weekly here. It's still above the Tenkan and Kijun. So it might still kind of go consolidate sideways. Remember how CleanSpark was consolidating sideways for a while, right? It looks like maybe IREN might end up doing the same thing here for a while. You do have a little bit of a bearish crossover here on a wave trend oscillator. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be a crash down, but it could just mean that it might have to oscillate sideways here for a little bit. Is IREN outperforming Bitcoin? It has been, right? Like, I'm not going to have to tell you that. But again, you have a little bit of a bearish crossover here on the IREN over Bitcoin chart. You do have a cloud underneath of it. It might just kind of go sideways, maybe even back test the cloud here a little bit for a few weeks to a couple months before going up higher. I can totally see that happening. IREN has already run too far too fast, and a short report is an excuse to either slow down the stock momentum. WULF, oh actually, IREN, price targets. Let's look at it. Look at the GAN here. Why did it get rejected? Well, it got rejected because it's right there in the top of the arc right there, And right now also kind of got rejected at 0.5 Fibonacci level, which has been rejected for like 5 weeks in a row. And so $15 or 14.6 is going to be a pretty important level. If you break above that after you consolidate around here for a while, now how far is it going to go? Probably going to get stuck between the 0.382 around 11.4 and the 0.5 around 14.6. Probably going to oscillate around here for a while, maybe even break back inside the arc here, oscillate around here for a little bit before breaking out above. When you're breaking out above, the next level is going to be around 22. The level after that's going to be maybe around the 30s to 40s. After that, 60. After that, maybe some of the triple digits up here, although I think it might be a crazy target to think about. We have to kind of break through the current resistance, and even then, we have a few resistance levels above, and that could be the end of the cycle. We might end up just finishing that. Right now, IREN is going sideways, unfortunately. WULF, turn off the GAN here. Looking at the monthly Ichimoku cloud, very bullish. A little bit overextended though, right? Away from the Tenkan, had a bullish cross over here. All these things are good. Could it just hit the cloud here on 15 right away? Or is it going to end up consolidating sideways because we're a little bit overextended? Who knows? Looking at the weekly chart here, you do look like you might have a little bit of exhaustion of this trend. Looks like we might have a little bit of a bearish crossover here that might come soon. Looks like we're a little bit overextended away from the Tenkan. So yeah, I mean, WULF is very bullish, but it's overextended. What can I say? It is what I see. I'm going to pull up the GAN here. Looks like it wants to break above this arc already. Maybe it's just going to be a wick. Maybe it end up coming back down and back test the $5 level, which is going to be the Fibonacci 0.5 level over here before bullish continuation. That's certainly a possibility. Next level where it's going to hit maybe around $8. There's going to be a resistance up here around $8. If it ends up pushing all the way up there, then I can totally see being exhausted, maybe come back down, back test the arc, or just kind of sideways oscillate over here for a little while before challenging the next levels. And I can totally see potentially WULF can hit like the 20s up here, or maybe even close the the stock over here at this like previous all-time high here around like 44, if it ends up doing something extremely crazy, right? But I don't see that happening right now because we're underneath a lot of resistance, and there's a lot of resistance to push through before we get there. And we might not have this happening this cycle, or ever, who knows, right? So you have to be a little bit cautious, but so far, I think consolidation is probably going to end up coming, if not now, then maybe closer to like 7.8 to like $8, somewhere around there. Is WULF outperforming Bitcoin? You bet your butt it is. It's outperforming Bitcoin like crazy over the last few months. Could it go back? This is a WULF over Bitcoin chart. Could it come back down and hit the cloud before going up higher? It certainly can. It will give it time for it to cool down. I think that WULF is still very bullish, and I'm still very bullish on it, but you have to be realistic, right? I'm going to talk about a couple outer ones, and I'm probably going to call it a day. I know you want me to talk about all the miners, but there's just so many, right? Talk about HUT. Let's talk about HUT8. What is HUT8 doing? HUT8 is doing great. HUT8 is hitting a very important resistance level over here. That resistance zone over here that has been hitting. We'll see whether or not it pushes through. We do have a little bit of exhaustion over here on the oscillator, on the wave trend oscillator, a little bit of exhaustion over there, So it does kind of make you wonder whether or not it's just going to keep pushing through. This is a very exhaustive trend because it has been way outside upper Bollinger Band for weeks number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right now. And right now something's got to give. It's just way too far, way too fast, way above the tank and way above the cloud. Could it come back down, back test the cloud, or just go sideways here before going higher? I think that's entirely possible. Going to pull up the GAN chart here, and just right off the bat, you can see a Fibonacci level around 22.5, which is where price got rejected over here. And we might be hitting a rejection over here too. Before going up higher, we might need to cool down. That's going to be part of a very important level over here at around 22.5. If we're able to break above that, then man, you're talking about some of the higher levels of like 60. You're talking about like some of these crazy levels on the arc over here, like 80, 130, something like that. I don't want to be that crazy because right now we're about to hit resistance pretty soon, And whenever you hit resistance, I would not be surprised if it goes down like 30-40%. That would not surprise me at all, right? So be a little bit cautious at resistance, or as we approach resistance, because we are looking a little bit exhausted over here. But I'm by no means bearish on HUT over the next 6 to 18 months. I'm bullish on HUT. Finally, I'm going to talk about one more everybody's been wanting to talk about, which is RIOT. RIOT did what I thought it would have to do, unless it was just going to plummet. It had to bounce. It looks weak. It's just what looks like it wanted to break down underneath the angle, but it did not. Next thing you know, you had a big bounce here. You had a bullish cross over here on the wave trend oscillator. And it's really looking a lot more bullish, although it still has more resistance compared to the other ones than I've seen. RIOT has hit the bottom of the weekly Ichimoku cloud, and you have another baseline resistance up right around, all these around like $13, right? So it's hitting resistance, and you have a lot of resistance that it has to work through. And even if it breaks above that, you still have another arc up here that has to break. So you have a little ton of resistance over here, and it's about to hit resistance very, very soon, if not already hitting the cloud resistance. So I'm a little bit, still not as bullish on RIOT as the other ones, just because it's not all clear skies ahead, unlike some of the other ones, right? But if you also look in the Bollinger Band, another resistance that hit is the top of the weekly Bollinger Band, right? It is squeezing, it is reclaiming the Boran support band, right? So it does look like it might want to keep going higher. It's a little bit busy. I'm going to turn off the GAN here. It looks like it does want to go higher, but it's just kind of stuck underneath of the upper Bollinger Band for now. We'll see whether or not it can break above and ride upper Bollinger Band up and break through all these, Ichimoku cloud resistance that I was just showing you. We'll see if it can do that, but so far it's not all clear skies ahead. It still has to prove itself a little bit. It still has a Tenkan resistance up here around 13.3, right? So resistance about still, but you look like you might have a bullish cross that's coming pretty soon. So there are some bullish development here on the longer term trend, on the monthly chart as well as the weekly chart, but it's still not quite ready yet. So we'll see what happens. I like this chart, but I'll try to get through some of the other miners if I can. But I just want to go through a quick 30-minute video, go through as much as I can before my live stream. Thank you so much. Have a good one. Bye.